start the recording. So, hello everyone. My name is Francesco Mancini, and I welcome you all to the 32nd edition of ArchiTalk, normally run by Dr. Parisa Izzat Panahi. And today I'm the Master of Ceremonies. I'm the Deputy Head of School of the School of Design and the Built Environment. And before starting the proceedings of today, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the elders and custodians of the Whadjuk Noongar Nation, past and present, their descendants in kin, and their land on which we walk, live, and work. Today we have the pleasure to have Mario Cucinella from MCA Architect, who will share with us some insights concerning creative empathy, and we are very eager to hear from him and look at his work. We are also working with Mario to have him as a guest here, as a visiting professional in July this year at the School of Design in the Built Environment, and we're very happy that this project is going on with the support of the school. Before leaving the microphone to Mario, just a few words about his profile and the studio's profile. Mario Cucinella is Italian, of course. He was born in Palermo, and he graduated in 1986, and in 1992 founded the MCA Mario Cucinella Architects in Paris, of which he is still today creative director. In 2015, he also founded SOS, the School of Sustainability. Mario has an experience as an academic, but he has founded the program School for Young Professionals and recent graduates that focus on application of sustainable architecture. The importance of Mario's work is national and internationally renowned, and his commitment as architect and educator spans throughout all of his activities. He's a fellowship of the Royal Institute of British Architects and honorary fellowship of the American Institute of Architects. He's been curator of the Italian Pavilion and the 16th International Architecture Exhibition of the Venice Biennale with the exhibition Archipelago Italia. And Mario is also author of many publications, including Building Green Futures, Architecture of the Future, and The Future is a Journey to the Past, 10 stories about architecture. And I think that these three main publications summarize his commitment throughout the advancement of the discipline of architecture. That said, I'm very happy to introduce Mario. And Mario, if you want to share the file with us, I will leave you with that. Thank you.
Condivido schermo. Fatto lì, condividi.
Okay. Yes, we can see the slides. Thanks.
You can see on slide?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, for me it's a good morning. I think for you it's this afternoon. I'm happy to be here to share with you some of the ideas, some projects of the office. And thanks to the University of Curtin to get this opportunity. And also very exciting to be in July to do some work with the student and share some time with you during that week. So I will start with this picture, which is very important for me, with this idea of imagining a world where beauty is soulful and sustainable. So I think we face a great change in the future, but it's something already started. To think of another way to design our building, and definitely how we can design place for people in the planet. So I think we need to have a very large view and vision, and then scale from the large scale to the small scale as a building. So a little bit about us is very short, but I think for me, in the last 30 years of work, I was really concentrating on the idea, then we design for the others. And we design for life and design for beauty. It looks like a very simple world, but I think you need to understand the responsibility of an architect when design spaces, design buildings, a square, or part of master plan, because we design for the people who's going to live in there. So it's a very high responsibility work. And everything we do to make the life of people better and get sharing more beauty, I think we do our work. So now also in the development of the work as an architect. So what an architect do? Is I think in the last period of time, it's not only answer to the question, like a client, a competition asks something, but it is redefine some of the question. So and that term, our work is more like explorers and interpreters. So we need to exploring some area of work we didn't know in the beginning. But in the same time, we need to make the research, and also we need to have stories, storytellers, buildings and architecture work always is always a story behind. It's a story about clients, a story about people, a story about the city, and I think buildings are representing the stories. At the same time, we are analysts, so we're already on the digital era, but at the same time, we are artists. Still, many buildings are made by hand, and we like to work. Of course, we are working in Beam and all these amazing digital tools, but also we do a lot of work by hand. By make our models. Models are very important because it's the way to learn to build the space, and then you can see through your hand, how things happen. And I think this is very good exercise. This is our office in Milan. So then all these questions, what the architects embrace all this calling, about exploring, storytelling, analysis, research. And so I will try to give some answer about all this calling. And another point is the value. I think that the architecture is not about only an exercise of functionality or aesthetic. It's about the value. And sustainability for me is one of the value of a building, and the value of your master plan. So what was said in the beginning, I like this word called practice creative with empathy. Creativity is the tool of an architect, which is, of course, is one of the most important part of our work, But empathy is the way you're creating these relations, not only with people, of course, which is important, but also with the place, with the climate, understand the data. So in that context, creativity will become close to empathy. One is driving the other one. Because if you only think about being a creative architect, then you risk to be producing extravaganza, some strange things. But I like the creativity is driven by the information, by place, by empathy. And also design sustainability from every angle. I think we talk about a lot about sustainability. Sometimes I think we talk too much, and we don't do almost nothing. Because it's easy, But sustainability is not only about performance. Of course, performance is one of the aspects of sustainability. Consumption of buildings, CO2 emissions, but this is only, I'm saying, is one part of the story. The other part is how you design your building. Because sustainability is not only a technological approach in building. It's the way you design it, the way you understand the place where you work, and shape the building, the form of the building you take it is, of course, related to the empathy. But just to give an example, these buildings you see is built in Ghana, Africa, and that picture was taken 21st of June. So what you can see in that photo all the facade is under shade. These buildings meet during the day because the tropical sun is almost always vertical, is always under shade, which is mean these buildings need less energy for cooling, almost nothing, and then make your glass completely transparent. And that is not only to saving energy, it's for the comfort of people. So I'm saying for me sustainability is the dialogue between the way you're thinking and design your building on that place and connection with people and place. So I like to stress you that this idea of sustainability is about design first, then it's technology after. But first is, the major mistake are made when designing buildings, not when technology. And also redefine the beauty of our time. Beauty is when you say beauty is depending in which time you talk. Something was beauty 30 years ago, 20 years ago, which now look a little bit strange. So the beauty idea is something which is changing in our time. It's the result of relationship between many things. But what I like to think is that beauty for our time is not only the aesthetic, but also the value. What is inside of this shape? What we try to communicate by this form. So you see these buildings here is a public building for the environmental protection close to Bologna, and the shape is inspired by very ancient building in Pakistan, which is a wind tower. So this building is 120 chimney. It's one floor, and this chimney is bring daylighting inside of a building all day, and also helping to ventilate the building. So I will be showing you later. But the principle of climate inspiring the shape and then transforming that building not only an aesthetic things, but express this idea of empathy. And lead the way with open arms. I think that is another very important point. Our work is evolving in a more in two parts. One is the technology aspect. Building is a technology issue. There are many innovations in buildings. On the other hand, it's also a humanistic. It's a vision. It's the relation with things and people and history. So I like the idea that we need to be really open-minded to able to connect with different cultures, with different knowledge. And also be brave and honest. So I think this work is, we need to be very courage to make it, to be an architect, because it's sometimes very difficult. It's difficult because there are many actors around your design, from the client to the economy, financial aspect, for the regulation, building code, and the contractors, materials. So all this process is quite complicated and difficult. But we need to be courage, and also honest and venture. So we need to really facing what will be the future, with kind of honesty. And I think about personal relation with people and clients. But as I told you, sustainability is more than function and features. And just to give you a little feedback about a very short history. So now we talk about sustainability, but of course it's a long story. It's not starting now. I'm saying we're using this date of Rio de Janeiro summit in 1992, the first UN conference about climate change. And then, every year is a COP, it's a conference in every year to discuss about the progress. But in the same time, many countries, they start to adopt new regulation, from Copenhagen, Germany. I'm sure Australia they do too. Then it is the German zero carbon new non-residential building in the UK. The first was a passive house in Germany in 1991. So I think, you know, it's an action against another one. And in one side we consuming and make a lot of mess around the world, but also there's one other part of the world that try to save this planet, you know, with rules, with culture. And Chinese also, they start to make something. Of course, it's a big countries. And as a European and also UN, we have a roadmap, you know, how we can reach CO2 reduction in Europe in 2030 and 2050. The Sustainable Development Goals is an agenda quite important, interesting to using and see adapting to different kind of culture. So the road is very clear. So there's no crossroad. There's only one way to go. And I think this is also very important for the young generation because 2030, 2050 will be the most important part of the story, but it will be run by leading by your generation, you know? The people who's now studying the university or the young architects. So in the next 20 years, 30 years, they'll be leading the world. And that's why I think this moment is very important to make together, you know, this plan of the future. Well, as you know, globally, buildings and construction account for more than 35% of global final energy use and nearly 40% of energy related to emission, which is mean architecture is very, very important. The way we change, and also the way we renovate the existing buildings. But one thing I want to share with you is, this is the diagram we did with our unit, research unit. If you're looking at building 30 years life, I'm saying in some country like US, building the life is much shorter. But in Europe, the building can be 1,000 years. So it's depending where you are. But we say this kind of a benchmark, you know, 30 years of building life, and we see that almost half of the emission, the CO2 emission, are during the production of material and construction phase. So, and the other part is about the operation. So, what does it mean? This meaning we are very concentrating on performance for a long time. Now it's time to concentrate our effort in material, using a new generation of material to make buildings, because we can reduce the operational more and more because we are more and more efficient. And of course, operationals mean the way you design the building. You better design than reducing the demand of energy and CO2 emission. But the other part is material. So there are two lines which I would like to work. Now we're working with some other company about the new generation of material for construction. But that is the problem, no? In the CO2 data is still growing. There's no any progress about this. As the population is growing, we are expecting in 2060 to be more than 230 billion square meters around the world, mainly India, China, Africa, some part of South Africa and South America. And Europe looking for nearly zero energy building regulation from 2022. And the objective is 2060 a zero emission, which is very ambitious program. I think it's good to do it. So it's the gap between growing, make more buildings, and reducing the CO2 emission. That is our problem now. How we can deal with these two opposite lines. But I think it's something very interesting is about reading the history. You know, I'm not nostalgic, and I want to tell you, I'm not looking for the past like how much better was the past. That's not true. I like to know that before the Industrial Revolutions, for many centuries, we make buildings around the world with no energy, and we was able to design fantastic building cities. You know? So how we did with no energy? Looks like almost impossible today. Imagine a city where there's no energy, but that was part of the story of humanity, much longer than the time we live now. So we did this kind of a timeline for sustainability, starting from many centuries ago and go through the history and see, especially in the last period of time, what we need. So mainly we go in front of us in the next 30 years to back to the idea to design building with no emissions, so with the less energy possible. But that's we did already for many centuries. So maybe there are something we can learn from the past. I'm not saying we need to do again, but we have knowledge behind us. So I write this little booklet called "The Future is a Journey to the Past," which is representing the idea of 2020 when it was my birthday to make a trip around the world and visiting some of the buildings which I consider they are masterpieces. Some I already visited, some I like to visit again. But then the COVID creating a problem of traveling, so maybe it's the opportunity to do this year or next year. And traveling around the world to see some example, the hidden or invisible cities. And maybe you know this episode, it's the episode 4, the new of the Star Wars, and then it's Skywalker walking in the desert and looking down on this hole, and this hole is the city, is these buildings, which actually exist, is in Tunisia, in North Africa. Those people in that context was living underground, because outside was a desert, and then it was too hot. So they excavating this kind of a limestone rooms and around the little square, because temperature underground is constant between 18 and 20 degrees, and outside can be also 30 or can be 50, and keeping the temperature constant. Maybe this is a good idea. This is about insulation. It's about protecting from the sun, getting sort of a little square around. There are many different examples in many parts of the world. This is China. It's a beautiful village with no buildings. The buildings are all underground. You can see the courtyard, and every courtyard is a family. And I think I was very fascinated with the idea that there's many ways to build buildings around the world, depending on the context. And this one is an amazing story in Turkey. It's a village which is 80 meters deep, where the people excavated to escape from the war against the Muslims. There was a Christian against the Muslims, and they designed the city completely underground, which exists. It's here in Cappadocia. I reached visiting that place, and you see it's invisible city, but under this landscape is a city. And so there's also in Australia one city built in some area, I think it's in the south, in the middle of the country, the south. It was a place where they're looking for gold, and then they built a city underground. So, and also it's another example which I always tell stories, of Marco Polo ice cream. So Marco Polo, which is an Italian, it was a family, it was traveling, or it was in the 13th century, to go to China, discover the world to find new materials, gold, and jewelry, and silk, and many things. And when he's traveling back from the South China Sea, from Indian Ocean to Arabian Sea, they arrive in Hormuz, which is Persia or Afghanistan or Iran, that area. And then he's traveling back to Istanbul, not Constantinople. And the people in the village, in the desert, they offer to him a frozen ice cream called Haludesh, which exists already. And now the people in Persia, in the middle of the desert, was able to make ice. That's his question, and make me very curious. Reading a book about this trip. So the Persian people design what we call a jackal, which is a Persian ice house, which is existing. Few are existing already. And they build a big wall, it can be like 100 meters long, facing south. And behind the wall is a little shallow pool, number one. And then behind is another small wall. So the angle between the two walls is the angle of the sun in the winter time, which is mean there's no solar gain on that little pool. And then they built a tank, they excavating a tank. With the excavation, they make a dome, which is the tank where they put the ice. What's happened is during the night, the sky is minus 50 degrees, and the shallow water was frozen by the effect of the sky, which is take away all the heating from the water. And by this principle, every night they make a piece of ice. Then they put it in a tank and they keep it in the storage, ice storage for the summertime. And the dome, which is ventilated, avoiding the heating radiation by ventilating this dome. Okay, that looks like very simple to do, but can you imagine on the 13th century, the people, they designed this building thinking about this principle of cooling, how to cool the waters at the point with the icing and then store. This is the storage. So you can see the size. It's not a small thing. It's a very, very large ice storage. So I'm always fascinated. This is the entrance. Unfortunately, the war is not only killing people, which is very dramatic, but also destroy history and buildings. So this is one of the few remaining in Iran. So I like to say we inspired by the history in terms of approach, thinking about this relation with the climate. Maybe we don't going to do the ice again like this, of course, but maybe some principle of cooling a building, shading a building, the way we can using or maximize the energy come from the environment would be a good way to design that generation of buildings. This is a project we did in Morocco, inspired by a plan, because there are another things very interesting to learn is learning by the plants. Okay, just to give you a very simple example. Plants are on the planet from 250 million years. So they adapting to our planet, they will change so many times from ice to heating. They was able to adapt themselves for 250 million years. Homo sapiens, us, we are in the planet as a sapiens with the intelligence for 300,000 years. So the gap between us and plants is about 250 million. So I think plants have something to learn to teach it to us. And I want to just, if you have time to look in YouTube, there's a few videos by this professor called Stefano Mancuso, which is a neurologist of plants. So he's working on the intelligence of plants. He said, well, what is the brain of the plant? There's no brain, but it's another intelligence. So if you look at that plant, you can see, you know this plant, there are many places in many deserts around the world. But this plant is a sphere, which is not all the time under the sun. Part of the sphere is another shape. And the way the leaves are made are triangular. You can see that picture. It's not always under shape. It's always part is shaded by the shape of the leaves. Then the top of the plant is full of small spine that many, which is creating this kind of a white area, which is the place where the sun is much more hot, so reflecting the lighting, avoiding to absorb too much heat. And then, of course, the spine all around the plants. For one very good reason, it's a juicy plant, avoiding animals that can eat that plants. But also, this plant take the water not from the ground, but take water from the air. So when the temperature changes between night and day, there's some air, some water in the air, some water in the air is condensed on the top of the spine, and this drop go inside of the plant. So how this plant know? That's the question. How we know? How he is able to adapt into that climate, to design a shape, and get all these elements of design to adapt into particular context and survive in a very difficult context. So what I mean, we still have a lot of things to learn, you know, and maybe architecture, the modern architecture is very primitive, you know, because we don't have this kind of a principle in our building. You know, we're still thinking that mechanical things are going to help us. You know. I'm always fascinated by this, not to make a building like a plant, but like this one, inspired by this. Oh, this is a residential for students. All this facade is in terracotta and providing full, always a shading, but also view, no, in a different way. And terracotta is a very is a material very with high porosity. No? So it's able to accumulate humidity and give it back during the day. So it's maybe creating a sort of a microclimate around the facade. Of course, that's not enough, but it's a way. Excuse me. It's the shape you design, the way, the consideration of climate that make that buildings work. And that is the final consideration. What these two pictures have in common? No? Well, the only thing they have in common is they don't move. No? Trees doesn't move, and buildings they don't move. But what the two things do it? No? So a trees do a lot of things. No? When the summer leaves come out and transforming the sun in energy, transforming the CO2 in oxygen, creating a shading. When they lose the leaves, they're creating sort of a humus and richness in the ground. You know? And the roots, you know, is the intelligent part of the plants because they're looking for mineral. And if you look, this is a video which is absolutely crazy. You see the roots, they know where they're going. You know, it's in the darkness. You know? But also plants, they give you fruit. You know? If you cut the branch, it's growing again. So a lot of things. You know, it's the life of the planet. You know? So what we are doing in our building in recent time, you know, almost building a hostile to climate. We don't want to know anything about it. The sun, the light, the rain. We want to make a building sealed, no? And then we're producing our environment by machine, no? Like 22 degrees, 65% humidity. If outside is the same temperature, we keep it closed our window, no? And if the machine is broken, the building doesn't work. So I think the difference between two is really 200 million years of difference of adapting to climate. You know? So I like the idea that next generation of building is a little moving with the building direction to be a little bit more intelligent and empathic with the climate. Of course, building are not a plant. Building is a culture. Building is the place where we live. So we don't want to make the same, but we can make our building more intelligent. So I will show you some project. Well, what I did 10 years ago a competition in Parramatta Square in Sydney for a couple of was a twin towers, and the idea was to design a tower with a facade opaque, no glass, and there was a sort of a mosaic, a photovoltaic mosaic, inspired by this beautiful Aboriginal Australian painting, and artworks. And the idea is maybe instead to design a building with a full glass facade, it can be an opaque, a concrete facade with holes, with little windows, and the facade is a decoration by different colors of little tile of things. I think what it was a very great message, to tell that we can design a building reacting with the climate and protect the building from the sun. So we have lost that competition. It was not easy to win and competition in Australia, but it was a great exercise for us to see what are the languages, what is the aesthetic of a building that we want to use a scheme to be reacting. So maybe the facade will be enough to running the buildings or reduce that amount of energy for building. So maybe the skyscraper is demanding a lot. And that was the final result. So actually we use it again for another project to develop this kind of scheme. And I think was the idea also, which I was talking many times, is buildings are very, very high, but what are our perception? Our perception is the first 10, 15 meters. So in reality, the city is about this level, the level of the trees, the level of the first 3 or 4 floors. That is the quality of the city. Then after you can have also 300 meters in top, where you don't really see, you don't really have a perception. And we need to concentrate in our effort in this quality of this area, to make our life better and have a sort of a get back to the city, the quality of the cities as it was before. And that's what some of the images of this canopy. Now I'm almost finished this building in Milan. Is another skyscraper. Where skyscraper is difficult buildings, technically, technologically, so it's complicated. But we try to make this building based on the efficiency, of course, for roofs, but also this building is an elliptic shape and facing the south. So south facing in buildings, especially high-rise building, is very difficult because not in the summertime because sun is high, so it's not too much sun getting inside the building, but especially in the winter time when the sun is low and goes straight into your window, which is creating a sort of an uncomfortable area. So what we decide to make an open atrium of 15 floors, is about 23 floors building. And the atrium is working like a climate moderator. So we ventilated in the summit and we recuperated the heating to transform in cooling. And in the winter time, this atrium will become like a glass house. So the heating which is produced by the sun will be taken inside of each floor. Of course, that's not enough to make free running buildings, but the shape the building contributes to the quality of the performance. That's the plan. So we're working in building information modeling, and it's very well. It's a change. I'm sure you know about these things. Design building in 3D, but also including every single details and matching all this information, technical, mechanical, electrical, architectural, structure in only one file, which is, of course, is really, really complicated and hard work. So that's what we do ourselves. So we're coordinating all this detail. That was the mechanical. This is all the structure, and that is the image. So the top of the building looks like a big eye, looking the city, and then half of this is a glass house. There is a free running area space, and on the ground floor is touching the city levels. We from a piazza. I'll show you some picture now. And this is a double scheme facade. So it's one facade is a double glaze between the floors, and there's another one which is cover all the building is one single glazing. So creating sort of a buffer zone between the external and internal. And the external facade is just go up like a skirt and then become a canopy and cover the piazza. That was the principle. That's very basic it's much more complicated than this, but just to be clear how we do it. And heating and cooling is taken by the geothermal energy. So there are wells under the buildings that we take cool waters and transform in cooling and heating. And that's the atrium of 15 floors. That is almost finished. We have another few months. That's the atrium. And you can see on the left side is the single glazed facade heating that space. And the buildings, the floors facing that atrium are all like a meeting room, a lounge, a place where people are meeting, and the offices of the opposite side. And that is the glass house on top floor. You see, is a lounge, which is a free running place because we can't fully meet in that place too big, you know. And there's photovoltaics on the roof, which is shading the buildings, and that is the place. You know, and, will be a very spectacular lounge. This is building's almost finished. You see the eye. And then it's cut to the south, no? So we can maximize the heating from the sun, make this glass house as a really special place, and the building is a double coating, you know, it's protected by this. Of course, you cannot do all buildings like this because that's very expensive, but in this case, with the double skin, you're really moderating and controlling the temperature. Then another project completely different, always in Milan, is the Fondazione, is a museum. It's about art from Etruria, you know, it's Tuscany, the modern time. You know? And it is about all objects come from the 5th century before Christ. It's almost all objects are black. It's a terracotta, but very refined way they cooking the terracotta and then become all black lips like metal. And it's an interesting story. I don't want to make too long, but you know, the Etruria, they believe there's another life after the death. Actually, you never die; you just go in another place. You know, many cultures, I'm sure, also in Australia and the Aboriginal, as many other primitive civilizations. They think in the life is continuous, you know, it's not stop. And maybe the life always after the real life is much better because the life in the earth was for many people very difficult. But all this object was designed by the tension, artistic tension to transform, to help these people to this journey to another life. You know? So when you stop to breathe, yeah, you stop to breathe and then you go to another place. We call later the paradise, so all the religions have paradise, and there must be a reason for that. And these are major, beautiful pieces from, this is a bronze from 50th century, and the only architecture remained from the Etruvian civilization is tomb, you know, because they are built, in stones and then remain. The other cities is gone because it was good construction. But that's quite beautiful. So we built this museum underground by inspiring by this shape. You know? And it's an existing building, you know, there's a renovation. But you can see from this picture from the grass, you know, you can see this little dome, you know, these hills, you know, which is the museum underground pushing the garden, not to say, I'm here, underground, it's me. You know? And then it's a very fine, very nice story about a family which is running this museum, which is public, because there's a couple that the lady is collectors of modern contemporary art, and the husband is collecting archaeological. So upstairs is all modern and some archaeological piece. Some artists design room that are specific, site-specific art. And then there's a section. This is, you can see the -1 is the museum about archaeological pieces. And it's not only about the dead people. It's about human natures, the war, they talk to the god, seeking beauty. There's a lot of jewelry. There's a little cinema room, tell you the story, and also life from the city. So I think this museum tells story of a civilization we still study, because it's a civilization of 10 centuries or 1,000 years. So, and we designed these domes underground, and these steel structure with the concrete and stones, and this is the museum. So, these are all very soft and very smooth rooms, it's all very fluid, It's made by limestone, coming from the Apennine between Bologna and Florence, the Pietra Serena, the limestone. And you can see there are 30,000 pieces of stone, big, and every stone doesn't touch each other, so it's a gap of 3 millimeters between stones, because all the air system, we only need to control humidity, is coming from the floor, but is intaken from the stone. So it's like the museum is breathing, it's the air go in and then through the stone, in and through the stone. And the exhibit are sharp glass, like a crystal inside of limestone, and it's a very interesting collection. If you go to Milan soon, this museum is there, you must visit them. And they tell an amazing story about the civilization. But of course, it is about also the architecture. It's not only about the pieces. It's a combining architecture and history together. Some details. And that is the building I showed in the beginning. Is the headquarters for the regional agency for prevention, environment, and energy. It's inspired by this project, this city in Pakistan is a wind catcher city. They're catching the wind during the night, keeping inside of a building, cooling the mass of the building. And during the day, they close this sort of a kite, and keeping the cooling inside. The curve of cooling is during more or less between 6 and 8 hours, so it's a cooling building during the day, which can reach maybe 5-6 degrees less in relation of the external temperature, which is quite a lot in terms of energy. And so we designed these chimneys. We are in the context of a plane with a very humid and hot in the summer and humid and cold in the winter, so it's not very good weather. So it's working like this. So in the summertime, which is improving the natural ventilation inside the building, avoiding accumulating heating, at the same time ventilation, giving comfort for your body. And the winter time, we keep in this little glass house, this chimney-like glass house, that we're using the heating producing by sun, and with the fan we put inside the building. Of course, that's not enough. Also for regulation, but 30% less of consumption for cooling and 40% for the summer is quite a dramatic numbers in terms of power demand and energy bills. And this is only by the shape. So what I'm saying from the beginning is the shape of the building makes this building efficient. Then are the machine. And this is the free. Chimney is all wood construction and was built very quick, and all the ring around is a sort of portico cave, which is covered partially by photovoltaics. And you get that feeling. And we do some work also in daylighting. Of course, now daylighting you can easily using programs like Radiance or other digital tools, but we did. For many years, we did in artificial sky to study the quality and quantity of light. These are the office inside, and that's it. I don't know how much time I still have. Hello?
Mario, we had a few minutes, but I'm happy to let you go ahead, and we can take a few questions at the at the end of your presentation. I don't want to interrupt. It's great.
I go quickly, this is the last big project, okay? So this is one of my favorite project, but I like to design school. I think it's one of the best things for an architect. You know? And it is a very famous Italian educator said the architecture as the third educator. So the space educating people. When you design a school, the space tells the student something. You know? Inspired by this Pinocchio, I'm sure you know the story of Pinocchio, and this little piece of the book about his father looking for Pinocchio was lost on the way, so it's a long story. But I was very fascinated by this, and we transformed this idea of a valley, of a wave, of a womb of a mother, you know, in a space like this. You know, this is a kindergarten for 0 to 3 years old babies, so it's a very important age for baby to understand the world around them. You know, it's the climate, it's the season, it's the first social moment after go out of the home. So it's school as a very, very important. So and it's all good, all safe in terms of environment. You know, kids they don't touch things only, they only lick material, they want to taste the things, you know? And that is the is the space. You know? It's a lot of daylighting. It's a very pedagogic building. We explain to kids how buildings work. It is a little guide to tell them you don't using fresh water, you using rainwater for your toilet, blah blah blah. So I think it's important to start with this generation to tell about environment, you know, because they can bring back home these stories, you know. So also, I go quickly. There's a research and development unit. We have a unit. I'm sorry that Lori was impossible for her to come this morning. She had medical things. And so one of the work we did with the MCA LMD was future driving cultural routes. So the vocation. We make some environmental analysis. So we help the architects in the office to give some information, like preliminary information about environment, about climate data, some conditions, and also they do research. One of the projects we did with the school and with the LMD was Tekla. Tekla is the first house printing, 3D printing house printed by Earth. And the idea was that I can build this in a very fragile context, but because it's made by Earth, we come back to the, we know pollution is coming back to the nature. No? And it's a 1 minute video to show you how this thing was designed. So that's the end, and it was an amazing experience. I think also physical. You go inside of this space made by earth, by mud. You can get sort of a empathy, relation with this material which is existing everywhere in the world. And I think the inspiration was why we don't use the latest technology, but with the oldest material in the world. So that's it. And then, we're creating a postgraduate course called School of Sustainability, and something we run in the office with different teachers, and this course of 3 months of teaching, these courses on environment and sustainability is very wide, and some tools also for you can do some simulation yourself. So we give it this young generation opportunities, and it's full time and working also with different many company. They help us. And then we do for 6 months a project, a real project with different companies. It's architecture, social business, post-carbon architecture, the right to quality shelter, and design a product or system for circular economy. So I go quickly. We made many different projects with a great, fantastic student. I'm not student because it's postgraduate. It's a young architect, engineer. And working with a very important company, they really help us to design and build things, because we do. In the end of it, this year we work with BMW to design a sort of installation for the sound of the city, and we try to open the mind of the student facing what are the challenges for the future, but working on with the real project. And for us, the ideas, so this is some of this, and then also the job placement. So we like, after this master, the people find work, and the 95% to 84% students, they find work after 2 months. Because there are many partners, and I think more and more it become more interesting for the young generation to learn more about it and inspiring about what will be the future, but also because we need the young generation. We need, as a humanity, not me, we need all the strength of the young generation to face these challenges of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. A great presentation, great work. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I urge everyone who wants to place a question, we have just a few minutes for questions. If you can put them through the chat, maybe it's easier, and I can read the questions. And while maybe we wait for some questions from the floor, my observation is that you've been talking about many buildings, but in fact, I believe that you have touched upon how the empirical knowledge is shared by people, with people, through people, and buildings really behave like living beings in your work. They're cold, they're warm, they breathe, they huff, they tell stories, they have a lifespan. So really, even you didn't mention throughout this notion of relationship with people and cultures is throughout your work very evident. So maybe one question for you would be, how important is to building these stories, understanding place through people in any form or shape, from the stakeholders, the clients, the communities you engage with?
Well, it's thank you for making this point, because it's one of the fundamental points. We all these projects representing a dialogue with not only with the client, but some project we did in some difficult area is always a dialogue with people, because the dialogue with people is an inspiration. It's always something that you never thought everything, and then the dialogue with people make you thinking in a different way. And I think this the architect able to listen, is one of the major qualities of an architect. Sometimes nobody wants to listen; they all want to talk. But I think sometimes it really is very important to listen what people have to say. It can be a client, it can be the community, because anytime you make a building, it's transforming the existing space. There are always people worried, because unfortunately for many, many years, contemporary modern architecture was not always good. Sometimes it was almost against the people. With no dialogue, it was object in the middle of the city that don't talk. And also buildings. Buildings is not only about the perimeters of the building. Building creating relationship, creating memories. But when the building is empty, it's not only empty the building, it's the emptiness around, because you can go through, there's nobody, there's no stories, there's no people, and it's an object there that's not creating this relationship. And I think it's one of the qualities of an architect is really the capacity to understand and listen to people. And I'm always open because sometimes people have a very good idea. I did it, so I like this thing, and make your work more complex, to their level of complexity. But definitely also, if you're able to understand and make an interpretation, you creating a bridge between the project and people, and then people recognize. I did some project and also with hostility because when an architect arrives, they always think, oh, the architect now tell us how to do this, But after a while, when you talk and listen, and then you design things and discuss, and then people recognize that this thing yes, I have this idea, we do, And I think if you make this link, the people accept things and this building is part of their life, and I think for many years these things was not happening. I think it's a very exciting thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this further comment on your work, and I think some comments about where the discipline is going from this perspective and where it should be going, as you pointed out at the beginning. We had a question from Neil County. So let me see if I can see it here. So thank you, Mario, for this wonderful presentation. Taking projects so much further than the standard commercial approach takes so much more time, energy, and resources. How do you make this work financially to put so much more research into each project? Or is it simply a passion driving this?
Well, I'm saying we always, this is a real problem in the office because sometimes the administration is not happy, because we invest people. We have 6 people, and somebody sometimes can say, what we are doing with these people that are not producing anything. But that is the wrong way we look at this cost, because whenever you have only 2 persons, 1 person, 3 persons, depending on the moment of work, it's always inform the design team. And I tell you now, the office is growing. We have now many architects and people, and clients looking for our work. Also because we did this kind of work research, because we help them when client, I said at the beginning, client came and say, oh, we want to do an office building. And I say, well, that's too generic. What is the objective of it? You know there's an agenda about environment, then you need to do this and this. So we help the client to understand better what are the real questions. And also is an investment of the knowledge of the office. I think it's sort of a legacy. Of course, it's representing a cost inside, and we're dedicating part of our cost in this unit. But for me, it's something that I can't work without. I need information. I need to know something more. I like to know what the other people do it, and some innovation somewhere, and that helps us arise the quality of the work, and also the quality of our client, which of course the people come to work with us. They know what they're looking for. They're looking for this kind of work, and also I think for many of my clients, the work that we are working together was also an inspiration for us, because we are learning something from our client, but also we give it back more than also the design. And this was very difficult in the beginning because I'm starting in 1992, and maybe, I don't know the age of the people was there. At that time, nobody's really care about these things. Okay? Nobody really care. But still today, they're not all aware about it. But I think the time is mature and this investment was very good. Sometimes it's difficult to justify. I know.
Yes, but it seems that also you have pointed out at one aspect of the profession that is certainly architects and architecture office still make buildings. This is what they do. But it seems to me that you are expanding this contribution and this collaboration with your clients to something that is a little more beyond just making a building. Is about human experience. Is about enhancing life and empowering companies or stakeholders, clients to contribute in various ways. And the building seems to be a device that is helping
Yeah,
say this task.
yeah, absolutely. The problem is this kind of architectural work will become more and more difficult, you know, because we also working with some speculative developer, which is sometimes very difficult because some of the clients in general, they look in buildings as a square meter for profit. You know, they don't really care about many things. You know, the point is do it, and this is our Excel program, and that's what we benefit, the profit, and they don't really care. Okay, we are not this kind of architect that can do this only. We do, but we always try to say, okay, maybe we are not able to do 100% of what we want, but also maybe sometimes difficult. Also, if I can make 30% of what I like inside of our buildings, especially for this issue of environmental issue, I still make something good because I think we need to approach this problem in time. Now, maybe now it's difficult or it's less
Yeah.
difficult than before, but we need time. You know, we need to. It's an education process, you know, and then
Mhm.
slowly, slowly they're going to change the rules. They're going to change in the next few years. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that is a great point. We're really running out of time, Mario, but I would keep talking with you, and I would offer opportunities to our guests to place more questions. If you have more questions for Mario, please forward them to me. We are very happy to keep those questions for when Mario and Lori will come to visit us. In
yeah.
July, I will touch base with you very soon about this, Mario, so we have good news. We can start planning ahead. And but in the meantime, I want to just thank everyone for being with us today, and thanks Mario Cucinella and Mario Cucinella Architects for the fantastic presentation. This presentation is recorded, so I'm very happy to share the recording with you, Mario, in any form you think is fit, and it's there
Yeah.
for everyone to access the recording in case they want to watch it or use it again. Thanks. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much.
Speak soon. And thank you all. And this concludes our session today. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks. Grazie, Mario.